Okay, folks, it's 6 o'clock. We're going to call this meeting to order. We'd like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin Nation. Now I would ask everyone to stand for the national anthem. Thank you, everyone. Now we're going to have our first motion, which is moved by Susan Irwin, seconded by Dan Meeks, that the agenda for the regular meeting of council to be held November the 21st, 2025 be approved as presented. No amendments?
No, there is not, Madam Mayor.
So as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest by any member of council on any item on tonight's agenda? Seeing none, we'll note that in the minutes. Motion moved by Bill Everett, seconded by Nikki Gowdy, that the minutes from the regular meeting of council held on November the 11th, 2025 be approved as presented. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Mayor's remarks. Just a couple of remarks that I have. Festival of Trees is happening the end of this week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And if you haven't been, it's an amazing time, and it really does make you get into the Christmas spirit. It's usually the first thing that gets us thinking about shopping. Although we did have a council and staff Christmas party with a fantastic turkey supper on Saturday night. And I sincerely want to thank all the gals and the guys who put everything together. It was an excellent time. We all enjoyed it. We all enjoyed it, folks? Yeah? Okay, good. I just want to take a minute to let folks know that I will not be returning to this seat at the end of the election year. So if somebody's interested in a job, it's a job and a half. You're more than welcome to it. I think I've been doing it for close to 40 years, not this particular job, but some job in the municipality. So I'm actually going to retire and see if I can keep myself busy. If I can't, I might join committees of council, who knows? But this position I won't be in. So that's good news for me. And I think good news for everybody. When you've done this as long as I have, you need some new blood. So that's my news for the day. Susan, you have some news.
Well, first of all, after those comments, thank you for your service. Very much appreciated. Just a couple of comments on the Frontenac County Business Awards, because the Kick and Push Brewery of Sharbot Lake won the Business of the Year award, and Rise Farm won Partnership and Collaboration Award. And I mentioned that because Sarah Hannon, who is the manager of the Sharbot Lake Farmers Market, many of the events that she put on for the Sharbot Lake Farmers Market were recognized for partnership and collaboration, such as having various community groups attending and the farm to table lunches. So, and they're holding a holiday market on December 6th at Oso Hall from 10 till 1. And I'd also like to shout out to the Lions Club for their murder and mystery dinner on Sunday. There were over 100 people in the hall for that event. I wasn't murdered, obviously, since I'm here. But what's important is that all the money that they raised, and it was $25 a ticket, goes back into our community. So thank you to them.
I forgot about that one. I didn't get there. That's probably why I didn't remember it. Okay, does anyone have anything to add? Duncan?
I just want to formally thank both Mayor Smith and Councillor Gowdy for their recent support at County Council. The proposal for the washroom funding went ahead, and working out the details, I'm sure we're going to get a report back, but we were successful in getting the funding, and it was mostly in part from the mayor and Councillor Gowdy and the work they did to make that happen. So it's $100,000 that won't come off the taxpayers' back in Central Frontenac. So thank you both.
Thank you. Yes, sometimes those discussions get pretty tough when you're the one asking and you don't know how it's going to go, but we got it. All right, let's move on then. Delegations. We have Jane Anderson here, who is a resident of Crow Lake, who would like to talk about Crow Lake Village road safety. Come on up to the table, Jane. Just push the button. Till it's green.
I was watching carefully, but I couldn't see. Sorry. Well, first of all, good evening. Oh, sorry. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. I'd really like to thank Jody Legue for sliding me in at the last minute. That was awesome. There has been a number of concerns recently with the Crow Lake from the train tracks down. I'm going to deal mainly with, because we're at 2045 Crow Lake Road. We're right at the bottom of the hill. The ones that for the last 2 years have had all the trucks and everything there. There has been excessive water flow down that hill for many, many years. 8 or 9 years ago, the township created a swale and kind of a berm to funnel water down to one of the culverts. It's in desperate need of repair and has been. Because during our renovations, we were required to lower the grade of our walkway. And in this construction, we found out that whole beam along the road was completely rotten. Now, over the years, we have noticed water seeping under the old wall. And the reason why I consider this a contributing factor is that once we had lowered the grade, as according to the engineer and Andy Dillon, water still seeped right over top. Now, we did not touch the wall, the road wall, the rock wall. Part of it is road allowance, according to the survey you gave me, Ms. McMahon. But the rest is ours. We didn't even touch it. All we did was lower and rebuild. So there's a problem there. A temporary solution, which we did, was we filled sandbags from 38 and put lovely white sandbags all along. We've also, at our own expense, put coal patch to kind of raise up the swale so that the water would be diverted. It's kind of worked, but the whole swale is in desperate need of repair. It's breaking apart, gravel's coming down. So really, the solution has to be the township has to fix this. It's dangerous. As I say, there's gravel and asphalt coming down. So the second item was the partial resurfacing that occurred in November. It truly wasn't especially effective. Potholes started coming the next day. Gravel that was put along Anderson Road, from Old Anderson Road to right where Anderson Road hits Crow Lake, was just 3/4 inch gravel, was just laid down. There was no top coating, so it didn't stay. First snowfall, we have copious amounts of gravel asphalt because the asphalt was very loose that they put on. All of this comes down in front of our place and completely, well, it goes into our laneway, into our parking lot. We couldn't use our snow blower because we would have broken shear pins. So here, my husband and I, 75 and 72, were shoveling. So, and I have pictures of all this. Of course I do. So solution for this, I don't have a solution except that something needs to be done to remove the excess debris off the road with snow plowing. Now, whether it was South Frontenac comes through or Central, I don't know. I'm assuming it's south, but it was south. My husband was out talking to them all. And that's snowfall. That was the first snowfall we've had. So I don't know what is moving forward. What else can be done? The most important thing truly is with the resurfacing, and I air quotes, of Crow Lake Road from the train tracks to the end of the village, the speed is horrific, as was predicted by council. There is the issues too here. There's a lack of really clear signage and no monitoring of speeds. I walk in the summer, and this was when the road wasn't even fixed. There is no place to go when these cars coming back. So we really need, there's no barriers too, where Township cleared all, as you're coming across the train tracks, there's a curve. They cleared out all of the trees and brush and extended the shoulder. That shoulder is soft as anything. You can't walk on it. Within a week of rain, rivets were going down, taking it, like destroying the shoulder. It's dangerous. Also, so there's no barrier there, and it drops right off into brush down into Anderson Road. And in front of our road, there's no barrier. There's the steep embankment, both at ours as well as I said, at the curve. That is just a kind of a recipe for disaster.
When you say barriers, you're speaking of guardrails?
Guardrails. I was leaving that up to you guys, but yes, guardrails, which I refer to a little bit later. So for example, the very first snowfall, on the 7th or 8th of November, a Black and McDonald service truck comes around, and because the snow was covering all the road, you think that the road allowance or the road kind of curves. He kind of hit the soft shoulder, went straight, and almost went through down into Crow Lake Road. It was 2 days, I think, before he got pulled out. The most important thing, and the worst as well, is that an SUV came down the road, spun out, and was inches from the only barrier before coming down into our house, and that was the hydro pole. Inches. There was a four-year-old, yeah, in the back. Yeah, that is, I mean, that is the most important thing. So 13 years ago, there was, when we bought the property, and it was a seasonal, I was teaching, but there were remnants, and there was one or two posts. There was a guardrail along there. It's long since it's disintegrated. So the solution is guardrails definitely have to go along that curve coming from the railway. The shoulder has to be reinforced because, as I say, one drop off, a wheel off, you just get pulled right in. I have photographs of that too. It also needs to be some type of permanent solution. Not only do we have the sandbags, but we have warning the solar flashing lights, markers. So really there needs to be a guardrail. It's not my preferred thing to see, but I don't want to have, because the hydro poles stop this lady to going into our living room. So it's a dangerous situation. So really, Crow Lake Road truly has not had the attention over the years that it really should. It is a throughway for large trucks, transport trucks, let alone the vehicular traffic going back and forth from Westport to Charlotte Lake. But it's the big, huge transport. You can't put a transport. It takes up the whole road. I truly understand. It's a challenge. The topography of Crow Lake Road, it was a village. It was a small, cottage village road, but that doesn't negate the problems that present traffic patterns have caused. It really something has to be done. So those were my few little solutions, but we look forward to seeing what Township has to offer.
We'll certainly be passing this information along to our Public Works Manager. Susan?
First of all, thank you, Jane, for coming in and speaking with us. Jane had spoken with me. I did assist the Andersons in filing a complaint with over a month ago with Public Works, and spoke with our Public Works Manager and sent emails. And so far, we haven't had a response, so somewhat disappointing, but I know that they've been very busy. So I'm hoping that with Jane's in-person presentation, that there will be at least a visit. Yeah.
Just to maybe go back a few years, that road's always been as it is. It's always been a problem. We've talked about putting speed bumps to slow people down. I don't know if that would make Crow Lake any safer because it's so narrow. In fact, how all those cottages got built there should not have been built there because you're at the bottom and everything goes downhill. And, cars spinning out at the top of that road. It's snow, the first snowfall, and unfortunately, those kind of drivers are out there. We're not going to change that. But definitely we'll talk to Steve and see, especially guardrails.
I think they knew that there was an issue because there was guardrails there before really the road got that busy and that congested. I'm going to say congested because they're big, huge transports. And sometimes there's transports
passing
like
transports. Yeah.
And if you happen to be on the road walking, well, there is no ditch. Or if you do step off the pavement, the asphalt, you're into poison ivy. Yeah, so it's not the best, and I truly understand the township's issues. The topography is not ideal.
It's interesting.
I had that on my notes. It's interesting.
There you go.
And challenging as well.
That too. Okay.
Yeah.
We will follow up.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
Moved by Duncan McGregor, seconded by Bill Everett, that council receives the presentation from Jane Anderson, resident of Crow Lake Village, regarding safety concerns on Crow Lake Road within the village for information. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, consent agenda, moved by Lynn Clegg, seconded by Cindy Kelsey, that council approves items at A through C. Items
A,
at-
shouldn't say T, shouldn't say action.
Okay, items A through C as they are considered routine items. Discussion, all those in favor? Carried. That's a couple pages. Okay, no deferred items. Staff reports, and the first is Fire Chief, Fire Services Activities. Moved by Dan Meeks, seconded by Susan Irwin, that council receive the Central Frontenac Fire Rescue Activity Report prepared by the Manager of Emergency Services, Fire Chief, dated November the 25th, 2025. Hello, Chris. Anything you'd like to comment about your report? Yep.
No, Madam Mayor, just, I guess one comment, sort of reviewing the last 3 years, our call volume's up about 28% since 2022. So just to make everybody aware that, things are getting busier for us.
Yeah.
So it's put us up over 100 since 2022.
Any
year.
indication why that is?
Medical calls, we're at about 600 and change on medical calls. So it's going up. At NBC's, we're being quite busy with number 7 now, and 38. A lot more traffic, as was spoke to tonight.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just becoming more busy. That's so. I just want to make everybody aware of that. So
Okay. Any questions or comments from council? Duncan?
Through you, Madam Mayor. First of all, thank you for answering my budget questions. I appreciate your timely response. And I just wanted to say thank you for applying for the 2 grants for 2026.
don't thank me yet. We haven't gotten.
We haven't gotten them, but thank you for applying and looking for
Understood.
alternate sources of revenue.
Yes.
Especially when we're headed to a tight budget. So
Sure.
thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
All right. If nothing else, all those in favor of the motion? Carried.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right. Now Michael's on the hot seat. Okay, moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Duncan McGregor, that council receives the accounts payable report check distribution in the amount of $1,075,891.49 as prepared by the treasurer for information. Just catching up on a few bills, $1.5 million. Well, $1 million and a bit. All those in favor? Carried. Apportionments moved by Bill Everett, seconded by Duncan McGregor, that council approve the following apportionments of assessments as recommended by impact for 2025 as applicable for the following roll numbers. There's a whole pile of them there. Does anybody have any question on any of those? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion? Carried. Moved by Cindy Kelsey, seconded by Len Clegus, that council for the Township of Central Frontenac approves the following reduction of assessments pursuant to the Municipal Act, roll number 1039-040-020-162-50 for the period of August 8th, 2025 to December 31st, 2025, as reported by impact. Reason: demolition raised by fire, demolition or otherwise, 357-1DI, class changes from exempt to taxable. And further, that council approves an adjustment of taxes to be calculated by the department for the related period. Do you want to comment on that? Class changes.
It's our old township building, Madam Mayor, that is now taxable.
Oh, isn't that a good thing? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. All right, procurement policy, moved by Susan Irwin, seconded by Dan Meeks, that council accepts the attached draft procurement policy for information proposed as prepared by the treasurer, and further that the draft procurement policy bylaw be passed later in the meeting. Discussion. Duncan.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Michael, would you be able to explain any changes since the last time we brought this procurement policy before council?
Yes, through Madam Mayor to Councilor McGregor, I have that note right here. And the only adjustment that I made was under used vehicle equipment. It's required to get 2 prices, ideally minimum, ideally 3 though, just to make sure that we're getting the best price while still delivering services to the residents. Because as was noted earlier, the budget's always tight. And if we can get a piece of equipment that will be cheaper per year and still satisfy the services to the residents, I think that's the way that we're going to have to go to try and live within our means.
As we've seen with a fire truck. Okay, all right. All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Cindy Kelsey, seconded by Nikki Gowdy, that council receives the presentation from NBP of the 2024 financial statements and that council approves the 2024 financial statements as presented. And Corey, otherwise named Dan, is going to take us through this.
That's my opening line.
And if I may just correct it, MNP,
MM.
Mary Nancy Paul. I'm
Did
not
I
sure
not
what's on
say
there.
that?
So
What did I say?
You said MVP. but
MV.
Well,
Which
I'm
is
not
true too.
I'm the MVP of
Very,
MNP.
very important person.
Oh, I'm telling Ryan.
Call me Dan. Great. So I guess somebody's controlling the presentation over there.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, brother. So I'll scream whenever I need a new slide. Great. Well, thanks so much, everyone. I'm a senior manager with MNP and I've been with the firm since 2019 and I've been involved with this audit since about that time. So it's great to be sitting here presenting the audit findings and kind of key financial highlights and just kind of do a brief overview of a few of the key financial statements that we've substantially completed our audit of. And this meeting for us is kind of one of the final audit items that we kind of do in order to finalize the audit. And I have documents here to sign, assuming council approves the statements following my little presentation here. And then, yeah, if there's any questions, you're welcome to ask them at any point or as we're going or at the end, either way, I don't care. Okay, next slide. Great. So like I said, we're just going to talk about the consolidated financial statements, talk about any of the significant matters or changes from previous year's audits, and anything else that we've kind of noted as being relevant based on the audit work we've completed and just the whole kind of environment around public sector accounting standards, which is the accounting standard by which, the municipalities have to account for all of the operational activities. So the next page, next slide rather, this is really the only document that we're providing. The financial statements are yours or the townships, and we're just reviewing them, auditing them, and giving our opinion on whether they're reasonable and as a whole free from a material misstatement. So similar to previous years, it's a clean audit report. So it's great news, no big issues. Nothing really in that regard, no difficulties that we encountered over the course of the audit. Like I said, we're substantially complete following, this kind of presentation and some signatures. And then there's just one accounting policy change for the past year. We are looking at calendar 2024, even though we're in almost 2026, but that's the way she rolls. So there's one new standard this year and we can just touch on that in a moment. So kind of just, sorry, next slide. And look at the next one there. So in terms of our audit, what it involves is really understanding kind of the various transaction cycles of the municipality, from kind of the receipts and receivables and the purchasing and payables and the payroll and accounting for the tangible capital assets, and then the other items like the asset retirement obligations, which was a big accounting standard that was implemented last year. So we're still kind of, every year there's changes and revised estimates. We understand and kind of get an understanding of all the internal control environments, and then we kind of do our risk assessments and develop audit procedures so that we can get reasonable assurance and give our audit opinion. So in terms of areas that we kind of drill down on the revenue side, just the cutoff, so amounts that kind of trickle in the new year that might relate to the previous year, deferred revenues, or sometimes like grants, making sure that, a grant that relates to 2024 is kind of recorded in 2024. On the tax side, we do some fraud risk procedures every year where we look at the property taxes levied to employees or staff members that live in the township to make sure that there's no funny business or preferential tax rates, being input into the system. I mentioned the asset retirement obligations was a big kind of ticket issue the last couple of years for all the municipalities. Kind of had to adopt this new standard and resulted in a lot of calculations and third-party expert advice and kind of determining the liabilities associated with future remediation costs and closure costs tied to kind of legal obligations. So expanding it beyond landfills and looking at gravel pits and underground things and wells and buildings with hazardous materials, asbestos. And so that's all been done. And then this year, the building permit fees or other revenues that the township generates that may have performance obligations. There's a new standard that essentially mirrors the accounting standards for private enterprises, so private companies, or for charities and other not-for-profits.
So PS 3400 just provides some clarity on how municipalities are supposed to account for certain revenue transactions, building permit fees being kind of one of the bigger ones. And long story short, there hasn't been any changes in how we account for those transactions. Just now we have guidance on how we have to do it, but the way we've already been doing it is reasonable under that new standard, is kind of our assessment, and also in line with other municipalities. Go to the next one there. So I think I already kind of talked about this one, but this is again just the new accounting standard that's new for 2024, or for fiscal years beginning on or after April 1st, 2023. So calendar 2024 will be the first year for the township to adopt this one. And like I said, it just provides some clarity and guidance on how to account for certain transactions, and there hasn't been any change. The financial statements, the significant accounting policies, there's just a new policy on how to account for certain transactions. And it's noted in there that there's been no change from how it was previously recorded. So that's the big exciting one in terms of standard change. Not as exciting as the ARO one. That was a big one. Those don't come around every year. I mean, it's not great for you guys, but but you know, it's new and exciting for us. And I mean, that's what keeps us in business, all these complicated accounting standards that they keep rolling out. It's not me, but the people up there, yeah, they make sure, they keep it complicated. So now we can kind of move on to the actual financial statements. So this is the statement of financial position, which kind of shows the net financial assets of the township at a point in time, or at December 31st, 2024. Can see bottom line, the accumulated surplus has improved. So there is an operating surplus for the year. Obviously a positive indicator for future financial flexibility. Significant item this year is the increase in that asset retirement obligation. There were some revised cost estimates from the third party that you guys engage to assist with those calculations. And we talked to them, and they have kind of new information, and they've observed, more recent closures of landfill sites. So they have better estimates on what the actual costs are, and big surprise, costs have gone up significantly. So, I mean, we present value that, which means we kind of look at those costs in the future and then figure out how much that is going to cost in today's dollars, but also taking into account that you're not actually paying those closure and post-closure costs for, years in the future. So there's estimates on the landfills are obviously the biggest ones with respect to, how long they can operate for. And then the period in which you have to monitor and incur those costs. So that was a big increase in that liability line item. And there's a similar increase in the tangible capital assets line for kind of offsetting that increase in the liability. And that's just kind of the double entry accounting kind of reason for that. It kind of has to go somewhere. So it increases the asset cost. Otherwise, the other asset line item is a little bit down from the prior year, and that other right at the bottom there, that other asset line is a prepaids, primarily prepaid insurance, and it fluctuates just based on the timing of when the premiums are paid annually. So if we go back, I think we look back at 2023, the premiums were paid during the year, or sorry, the premiums for 2024 were paid in 2023. So there was a large prepaid asset, because you don't recognize that premium. You kind of line it up with the year it relates to. And then for this current year, the 2025 premiums weren't paid until 2025. So you don't have that prepaid asset. But the insurance expense on the statement of operations is going to be consistent. And we'll look at that statement in a moment. But yeah, I think that's all I got for this one. So this breaks down the capital asset additions, which obviously, these are all the roads and sewer networks and equipment and computers and buildings and all that jazz. Varies year over year. There is an increase over the past couple of years, and you can largely chalk that up to the increase in the asset retirement obligation on the landfills because of those revised closure cost estimates. That's resulted, that gets added. So if you that was about $1.5 million. So if you take that away, kind of lines up with the last couple of years. But we can look also at the asset consumption rate is about kind of similar as prior years, about 2/3. And that just measures how it measures the useful life, the remaining useful life of the capital assets, and how much has been amortized to date. So if you buy a building, you amortize it based on the policy, 20 years. You know, if you're 15 years into that, then you'd be 75% consumed on that asset, on that building.
That would be the Charlotte Lake Village project, Madam Mayor, and the grants that we received.
That would be the Charlotte Lake Village project, Madam Mayor. I actually, yeah, I don't know, going back 4 years, yeah.
So if I could help you.
Yeah, I defer to Michael on most of those specifics. Or I mean, I could go back in our audit files and I could answer it for you, but it'd be a task to kind of come up with that one. So the next slide just demonstrates, kind of shows a little pie chart on where the capital assets are. And you can see this year compared to maybe last year, land is a larger percentage of the additions. And that's really largely just because, again, of that ARO addition. That's kind of reflected here and gets that extra $1.5 million liability gets added to the land. And so it shows up as a capital asset addition, even though you didn't really buy any more land, just, you know, the liability associated with the land you already have went way up. So you kind of just offset that to the cost. It becomes a cost. And then followed obviously by roads and road infrastructure. There's a pretty extensive network of roads in the area. So the next statement is the accumulated municipal surplus. And this one has different names for different types of organizations. So, I mean, for a private company, this would be kind of the breakdown of your retained earnings, or for a charity, the net assets. And it's just another way of showing kind of the financial health of the township. And it breaks down from the kind of operating surplus, and then shows where those net assets, or where the municipal surplus is allocated amongst the assets. The capital assets, there's a bit for the arena that's in there, and then the various reserves that are set aside for obviously future expenses and all that. So, yeah. Next one is the statement of operations, and this tracks the township's operations or activity over the course of the whole year. So for all of 2024. Things that stand out, I mean, property taxes are going to increase by, you know, the annual agreed upon levy. Township generated strong revenues. Bottom line, there's a surplus again that's added in there. When we look at the expense line items, we can see that they're broken out here in terms of the various services. And in the financial statements, there's another note that breaks them down by the type of expense, so wages and materials. Yeah, I mean, on the investment income side, we saw that there's an increase just based on the change in interest rates. But otherwise, yeah, nothing too crazy here. In terms of our audit work, you know, on the expense side, we'll look at we'll pull the big contracts, you know, the OPP contract, and take out all those high value ones. And then we'll take, you know, all the expenses, and we'll do sample testing to make sure that the expenses occurred, that they've been appropriately classified, that accurately recorded at the, you know, the right rate, that the, you know, rebate, the refundable HST is recorded correctly. So that's kind of how we look at that from an audit point of view. And no issues or anything like that as in previous years. So the next slide is another kind of just demonstrates the expense breakdown there. The big piece on the transportation, which again accounts for about half of the township spending. Again, you know, related to the relatively large area that you have to service, and the roads and the weather and all that stuff. Sounds like Crow Lake Road needs a bit of work, so maybe that percentage will go up a little bit next year. I actually drove on that Crow Lake because my dad lives in Tay now, so I came right across that whole way. I've never been on this road, but it was pretty scary. Yeah. Wasn't one of those ones where you can just kind of fly like 90, 100 on there. You got to, yeah. A speed bump. When she said that, I was like, "Oh, that's like a ramp. You're gonna fly off that thing." Yeah. Maybe you'll miss the house. You'll go over it. Yeah. Sorry. I'm not supposed to make these kind of jokes. Very unprofessional. Thanks. Yeah. So the next slide, I think there's only one more. Basically, to kind of summarize, big increase of the ARO. I think I mentioned that on like every slide. Asset retirement obligation. Yeah, so I mean, before it was called, the landfill liability. ARO is really the new word under the new, public sector 3280 replaced 3270, and so yeah, it was a big one for us. Yeah. Yeah, so the ARO, I mean, you guys hired a third party to help with all those calculations stuff and handled that handled that adoption really well. Really well in comparison to other municipalities. No names, but okay, and that's really all I have. I mean, other than if there's questions, otherwise I do have one question just for everyone here as part of our audit, which is just subsequent events. So, I mean, today is kind of the day we're trying to wrap everything up. So we need to be aware, or we kind of ask the question to council and Madam Mayor, if there's anything that we need to be aware of from an audit perspective that might need to be disclosed in the financial statements, since, because we're not finalizing till November 25th, anything that's kind of taken place from January 1st, 2025 to now still has an impact in these statements from the perspective of the audit.
I don't believe there is.
Great.
Nothing that I can certainly think of. I think all has been going well. We're just
Wonderful.
hoping money's going to fall for 2020.
Might be working on it, yeah. Great.
I will attest, as I do every year, to the thoroughness that MNP puts myself and my staff through in a good way. I do recommend them highly to every treasurer that I go through and see. So Corey, I think, did a great job tonight, and I'll send an email to Ryan effective to that. I will apologize to council for the lateness of this report coming. Some of that was out of my control and some of it was timing. So hopefully it won't be that late next year.
There you go. We'll hold you to it. And thank you very much, Corey Dan. That was that was very good. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay. Thank you very much.
Viewed the statements, but if you have questions in general too, you can reach me at our office if you want to chat on any of this stuff. Sometimes when people get into some of the notes and stuff, there's lots of pages, so we only skim the surface. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. In that case, I think there's some things to sign. I don't know who usually
Great.
signs.
I'll take care of that.
You're gonna do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Or again, Corey offered, and if you have questions you don't want to talk to me about, by all means,
Yeah.
approach him, but you're always welcome to come into my office and we can go through anything in detail. Right?
Okay. All right. So the motion is on the floor to accept the report. All those in favor? Carried. Excellent. Thank you very much. And if you would stop by more often, I would really know you as you walked in the door. It was months ago.
Congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to it. All right. Next, we have another finance report on insurance. Moved by Duncan McGregor, seconded by Bill Everett, that council authorized the CAO clerk and the treasurer to sign the renewal for the providing of insurance services with AON for the year 2026, more specifically for the period of January 1 to December 31st, 2026, at a cost of $286,528. Any discussion?
Madam Mayor, as you say that, I know it sounds like a lot and everything keeps going up every year, but I want to remind council, and some were not here at the time, that we reduced the insurance through a group RFP with the county by $170,000 that one year.
Yes.
And that has probably saved over $1 million at this point.
Yeah.
So as much as that is a lot and it keeps going up, it is in the range as well in terms of treasury emails that go around. 4.6% increase, the average is 5 to 7. So
Yeah.
Aon is still, in my mind, the most competitive. And as my concern when we did that group RFP was switching the customer service wise, Bill and his team have never failed in giving us the best service that I've seen.
Excellent.
So,
Good. Well, in the way the world is going, the different climates we have, insurance companies are paying out a lot of dollars. So, all right. All those in favor? Pay the bills. Thank you. All right. Moved by Lynn Clagus, seconded by Cindy Kelsey, that council received the planning activity report dated November the 25th, 2025, as prepared by the Planning Services Assistant for Information. Any questions or comments on that? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Dan Meek, seconded by Susan Irwin, that council received the November 2025 bylaw enforcement and education activity report is prepared by the bylaw enforcement officer for information. Any comments, questions? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Nikki Gowdy, seconded by Susan Irwin, that council receive the November 2025 Administrative Activity Report as prepared by the Deputy Clerk for information. Any discussions, comments? All those in favor? Carried. Moved by Bill Everett, seconded by Duncan McGregor, that council receives the amended committees of council policy report, that's a mouthful, as prepared by the Deputy Clerk for information, and that council approves the amended committees of council policy as presented. And further, that the policy be enacted effective immediately to guide all council-appointed committees. Questions or comments? Duncan?
Through you, Mayor. So thank you, Jody and Kathy, for working on this policy with me. I think this policy hits a sweet spot for our committees where they have to check in with council on big projects or any capital, but allows them to manage the day-to-day operations of a committee without too much bureaucracy. So I think this is a good strike balance.
Good. Any other questions or comments? Jody?
I just wanted to make one small comment through you, Madam Mayor. I added the website accessibility committee to Appendix A. It wasn't in the one that I sent out, so just one minor small change.
Okay, excellent. All right, all those in favor? Carried. Moved by Cindy Kelsey, seconded by Lynn Clegus, that council receives the preliminary draft sewage system standards bylaw report for information, and that council provides comments and feedback on the draft bylaw to the deputy clerk by January 15th, 2026, and that staff release a survey to gather public comments and feedback on the draft bylaw with a closing date of December 31st, 2025, and submit the results to council in a timely manner. And further, that staff update the draft bylaw accordingly for council review at an upcoming meeting. Discussion. Susan?
First of all, thank you for your work on this bylaw. And you might just want to check the name of the committee, because sometimes it's referred to as the Sewage System Standards Committee. In one clause, it was referred to as the Property Standards Committee. And in another, it was referred to as the Septic Standards Committee. So just for consistency.
Apologies for that typo.
No need to apologize. Just going through it, I just picked that up. So
Good. Okay. Any other comments? All those in favor? Carried. I think we could shut off the cooling now and put the heat back on, Dan. All right. I'll talk fast. Committee rather reports none, communication, correspondence for action, none, bylaws and agreements. Procurement policy, I have moved by Susan Irwin, seconded by Cindy Kelsey, that bylaw 2025-50 being a bylaw to adopt a policy to govern the purchasing of goods and services be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 25th day of November 2025. All those in favor? Carried. Any notices of motion?
No, Madam Mayor.
And giving of notice of motion, we have
Yes,
one
you have
from
one.
Councillor Nikki Gowdy.
Mhm.
Amend bylaw, I'm supposed to read it, right?
Yeah, you just can name just the first part of it, and then it'll be discussed at the next meeting.
Okay. Amend bylaw 2024-41 K9 bylaw.
Yeah.
Okay. New or other business? Notice of special council meeting pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 and the Township of Central Frontenac procedural bylaw. Notice is hereby given that a special meeting of council has been called for the purpose of presenting the mayor's draft 2026 budget. Date is December the 4th, 2025, time 4 p.m. Location right here, the council chambers. All members of council and the public are advised that the special meeting will address the matters specified above and no other business will be conducted. Guess that's all I say. Okay. Yes.
Is there any way we would be interested in moving it to 8 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. or starting in the morning? So we're not starting at 4 o'clock in the afternoon?
Hey, I'm fine with that. Is there any concession between 4 and 8 that we could make? Because Cindy works.
Yeah, make it like noon on.
Okay, would that would even be better?
No, like 12:30, just be pretty.
Okay, let's say 12:30 then. I'm going to
Okay.
change this. This is
Sure.
going to say now 12:30
30,
PM.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, that works for everybody? Okay, good. All right, now we are going to move into close. So I will read the motion. Moved by Dan Meek, seconded by Lynn Clegus, that council resolve into closed session pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act to discuss personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, section 239(2)B. All those in favor? Carried.